The assignment for this video was to think of and describe the best teacher I ever had and the effect of that person on my life and my ability to teach. And I realized as I scoured my long resume that it wasn't any single person who influenced me in my teaching career, but the students I taught. And I'd like to describe 3 sets of those very special students. The first was the group I taught in Waterbury, Vermont, my first minute out of college, my first period of class. They were the seniors, and they were waiting to see what this young outlander was going to do with them. I think Vermont kids are born with a sense of irony, so they were waiting. And while I was describing very seriously what the arc of our education was going to be during that year, the blonde-headed boy in the last row put his hand to his mouth and pretended to sneeze, but what he did as he sneezed was to teach me something, and what he said was, "Horseshit." And I had the great good luck to laugh. And from that moment on, everybody else laughed, and the year was one of the most wonderful of my life. What I learned from them was that it's important to teach with a sense of humor, and I also learned how wonderful it was to learn. And when I went back to graduate school at the end of my 2 years there in Vermont, I was hungry to have the tray handed to me. It was wonderful. The second group of students is probably the one I admire the most, and that is the night classes I taught at Hudson Valley Community College. What I loved about those students was that they really wanted an education. They had worked all day, or they had taken care of an aging parent or children all day, and nevertheless, they came to class at 7:30 at night and sat with me for a couple of hours and then went home and wrote. It was a composition class. They wrote pages and pages on what should have been their free time. And they loved learning. They were sacrificing a lot to be there. It was wonderful to be with them. The third group of students who really taught me something was the women at York Prison, to whom a couple of us worked, with whom a couple of us worked to teach poetry. And what I learned from them, of course, is how lucky I am to be free in the world, how lucky I am to be writing poetry just with the luxury of wanting to explore what it is I'm thinking about or seeing. Whereas for several of them, as they told us, poetry was a way of staying alive. I learned so much from those women about commitment and the importance of writing.